Hi, my name is Lin and welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier today. Now, I wasn't going to make a video about this week to week because it's not really a mystery to unpack like WandaVision, but after watching the first episode, I liked it so much I really wanted to talk about it. These videos are a bit hard for me to turn around quickly within the week because I do everything myself. So if you like it, like and subscribe and leave a comment telling me so I know to keep doing these. So let's get into it. The show starts with Falcon donating Cap's shield to the Smithsonian. People seem to be a little bit confused here. This is a donation to Cap's exhibit. Sam isn't giving the shield up to the government. And if you look at it closely, the man who congratulates Sam and tell him he's doing the right thing is the same man at the end of the episode that introduced John Walker, the new Captain America. So he's being manipulated and lied to here. And the conversation here between Rhodey and Sam explain why Sam did this, as well as being a character study. Sam feels like Captain America is Steve's legacy. He doesn't think it belongs to him, but he doesn't necessarily think it belongs to anyone else either. He thinks he's putting the mantle of Captain America to rest. He talks about going 70 years without a Captain America. So this shows us that Sam is someone who wants to forge his own legacy, which comes back into play later. Now let's talk about the action scenes. At this point, the Disney Plus show action scenes are just movie-grade action scenes, which makes sense because most of them have the budget of a small movie. Falcon may be just a man with jetpack and wings, but in this action scene, we see what a creative use of simple tools can give us an exciting action scenes. Things like using a rocket boost to slam a guy and wing-assisted flip kit. Red Wing, his little drone, also kick ass. He does a Star Wars dry beep beep noises. I think they should go one step further and give it a little personality. Because in the comics, it used to be that Red Wing is a real bird that Falcon has a telepathic connection to. Don't ask, comics are weird. One of the things I'm really glad about this is them bringing back Batroc the Leaper. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he was in the beginning of Winter Soldier who hijacked that ship until Cap kicked his ass. Anyway, I'm glad he's back. And I'm glad he's still alive at the end of this action sequence as well. It's not like I'm a big fan of Batroc the Leaper or anything. It's just that because to me, this kind of things make the MCU not just vast, but also dense. Let me explain. The MCU is no doubt vast, right? We have locations ranging from Earth to Asgard to Titan. And we've been to things like the Dark Dimension or the Quantum Realm. But it also needs to be densely populated, which means there need to be more bit players just running around. In my opinion, the movies should feel like brief insights into this vibrant, ongoing universe where we just check in on these big events. And when we aren't looking, things are still happening. MCU has been not as good as that, because they keep killing the villains and tying things up in little bows. AIM and Hydra and Killmonger and Claw, they should still be running around in the background causing minor havoc. That makes the universe feel lived in and also explain why this or that hero don't show up to help in movies they're not in. The default assumption is always, of course, that they're preoccupied. And a universe that feels dense and vast sells that excuse. To me, a shared universe is not about big cameos, which are a nice dessert, but you can't have that for every meal. To me, Rhodey showing up in the Smithsonian ceremony is more important at making this world feel alive and real. He doesn't have to show up suited up as War Machine in the big final fight. I would just assume he's just busy with another mission. Speaking of other heroes showing up, this where is Cap thing, I don't think you guys should focus on that. The little joke about Cap being on the moon, I mean, there are a couple of moon bases in the MCU, so it could be an Easter egg, but it's mostly lamp shading. I don't think they'll address it in this show. They'll wait until what they'll do next with the character, whether or not they can get Chris Evans back, and then they will tell us what happened with him. So let's talk about that Winter Soldier action scene. It's shot very differently with the Falcon action scenes, which was shot like a blockbuster fun adventure movie. But this one's almost shot like a horror scene where Bucky is the villain. He's like an unstoppable Terminator. A small aside, I want to talk about Bucky's name. Somebody online said Winter Soldier is a dumb name, so of course I took that personally. personally. Let me explain the meaning of the name. In medieval literature, there is a concept of knights of summer. Knights during peacetime obsessed with revelry and pomp instead of duty. You can see that concept touched upon in Game of Thrones series, especially in the books. In reference to this concept, the term summer soldier was coined by Thomas Paine in his 1776 paper American Crisis. Summer soldier describes someone who would easily speak of civic duty, but would shrink from the service for their country during a crisis. This was later referenced by Vietnam-era Winter Soldier investigation, in which John Kerry, who later became Secretary of State, but at the time was a naval lieutenant, said, "We have to be winter soldiers now." In context, meaning weathered soldiers who must speak out about the horrors and crimes committed during their service. So Bucky fit every aspect of that title. He's the opposite of summer soldier in that he volunteered in World War II when crisis called. He's now more so the winter soldier in that he's acknowledging and trying to rectify the horrors he's committed. It might be a code name given to him when he was an assassin, but he embodied the positive aspects of the name long before that, and more so than ever now. And that's why I think he will reclaim the title of Winter Soldier back by the end of the show. When Bucky wakes up from the dream memory, he's sleeping on the floor, which is a callback to the line in Winter Soldier about Sam describing sleeping on a bed again. It's like sleeping on a marshmallow. It have to do with the veteran's hardship and PTSD. But it's not just that, because Sam and Cap bonded over that moment. So it's something Sam and Bucky could bond over as well. It highlights that they have a lot in common, and they could have a friendship like they both have with Cap. It highlights what the shrink call out later. He's avoiding personal connections. Not because he can't make them, or he's a man out of time, or because he wants peace. He's just trying to isolate himself out of guilt, and he thinks he deserves to be alone. Sam is reaching out, he's sending him texts, but Bucky isn't replying. We can see this again with Yuri and the sushi shop girl later. We see how easily he makes human connections. He's a nice and charming guy. He's just deliberately retreating, and of course his PTSD is clearly getting in the way. They also touch a little on him being a man out of time, him showing up to the date with flowers, and that little bit about online dating. By the way, that was a real trend that happened. People were inexplicably using photos of them with tigers in their dating profile pictures. It became such a big trend that Tinder officially released a statement saying stop doing that. Now, let's talk about the shrink. I see she's getting some hate and even some theories that she might be a villain and that she's unprofessional. Yeah, she's a little bit unconventional and she's doing things a real shrink probably wouldn't do, but I don't think she's a villain. I think it just highlights that she also have a connection with Bucky and is saying what he needed to hear, which is giving him hard truths. She's a veteran as well and clearly cares about Bucky. And once again, it highlights Bucky is making human connections without meaning to, even if he doesn't want to. We can also see that Bucky has been pardoned for his crimes, and he's doing a "my name is Earl" thing, but also he's still being used. Yes, he have that 3 rules, but look at the way that SWAT team moves in and ignore him. This is clearly an operation being carried out with his knowledge, and he's still being utilized by the US government, therapy or no. Now let's talk about Sam's struggles in this episode. Everything that happens to him in this episode is about legacy. Sam gave up the shield because he respects Cap's legacy and want to forge his own. And you can infer from the conversation he had with his sister, that's probably why he left the family business and joined the army as well. But he wants to preserve that legacy now that his dad is passed, and he feel like the legacy has been passed on to him to preserve. The system and the bank will see it end. And I think that's foreshadowing for the future. He will come to realize that, same as his dad, Cap has passed as well, and it's Sam's legacy now. It's his job to carry it on. And to take charge of it is to preserve it, because as he find out at the end of the episode, the system will pervert it or end it, just like it's doing with his parents' legacy. Now, the loan scene is clearly a very pivotal scene. People are focusing on the Avengers not getting paid, which we find out during this scene. Well, Sam was a fugitive for 3 years, and then he was dead for 5 years. He was technically an Avenger for a hot minute between Age of Ultron and Civil War, just a year at most. He was just answering a question asked by a loan officer about his situation. Don't take it as an exposition dump about all the Avengers' financial situations. I mean, Vision could afford to buy a house for him and Wanda, so clearly not all the Avengers are in the same financial situation. This lone scene ties everything together. Now some people are upset by the idea that MCU is tackling racism. Don't put politics in my entertainment, blah blah blah, right? Well, what you consider political is life for some people like Sam and Sarah Wilson. Remember, the personal is political, and the people who don't have to feel that is usually being favored by the system. And of course, people are saying, oh, the bank didn't deny them a loan because they're black. No, not as such. That loan officer wasn't being a racist in itself, and the bank probably doesn't have don't provide loan to black people policy. But this is about systematic racism, and it worked a lot more insidiously. Notice when they leave, Sam's sister also says,
people don't even know who Daddy was, and he was a giant.
It's almost like their community is informally segregated, and his contributions in his community is not remembered or recognized by this other part of the community. And whatever Sam's and Sarah's parents' legacy is in helping the community is still being carried on in the background. There is a thread happening in the background of them preparing food for the local soup kitchen. It's so subtle you could miss it. Once Sam's arrives, they're sorting the fish to go to the soup kitchen. When they're about to go to the bank, he's filling containers with food and packing it into the truck. When they're arguing after the appointment, they're taking the food out, I assume, to take it to the soup kitchen. Now, there's a credit to the characters that at no point is there a discussion about stopping this charity in light of their financial hardship. It's also a credit to the writer's confidence in the story they're telling that this isn't even openly discussed, except one line of Sarah instructing her kid.
And we're taking that one to the soup kitchen, so put that one over there.
This kind of explains why Sam is the kind of person he is. Why, when Cap came calling in need, he dropped everything and helped him without a second thought. He comes from a family where contributing to the community is built into their life. It's not an active choice. This is about the system not valuing people like him. Sam's treatment here is a commentary on how veterans are treated. Lip service is given to their contribution, but the actual contributions are not valued by the system. If the system doesn't value Sam's status as a veteran, or his contribution as an Avenger, or his family's contribution to the community, or his sister's continued contribution to the community, can you just brush it away because all this contribution doesn't earn them money? Isn't money what we give people to represent the value they've added to society, so in turn they can get other things of value? If the system is not recognizing these values, shouldn't the system change? And this new Cap thing is another example of the system not valuing people like Sam. Once again, people are saying, well, you can't say they didn't choose him to be Captain America because he's black. Well, not just because. I mean, I'm sure things like he's no longer on active duty, the fact that he went rogue, and he chose doing the right thing over obeying orders all factor into their decision. But they're making a propaganda tool as well. The speech at the end of the episode even subtly distanced themselves from Cap's legacy while they openly co-opting it. They said, while we love heroes who put lives on the line to defend Earth, we need a hero who will defend this country. Defend from what? The Avengers are based in the US and by and large defend the US first and foremost. This is not about defense. This is about being a propaganda tool that is under their control. So you don't think in the process of workshopping that propaganda tool, which is supposed to be the next face of America, the fact that Sam is black wouldn't have come up? Once again, his contributions, what he did as an Avenger, fighting for the right reason, dying in the middle of defending Earth. They don't factor into it because they value a different currency, obedience. So all of this is about the system having a very narrow evaluation system, and built into it is the narrow-mindedness which lead to not just, but a large part to systematic racism. Now, I'm very happy that a Disney Plus show is tackling heavy subjects like this. I don't expect them to, give an answer, of course. This is an issue because there's no such easy answers. And I certainly do not expect a superhero show about a guy with wings to solve systematic racism. But longer form shows like this, focusing on minor characters, are a perfect chance to drill down and well-built and tackle some serious issues. I hope we grapple with this kind of issues more in the series and not just drop it. With villains like Flag Smasher, them rolling out a new Captain America, and Zemo returning, I hold out hope that that will be the case. I hope they continue to surprise me more like this episode already did. Now let's end on a funnier note. Look at this Is Pepsi Okay version of Captain America. Not a single line of dialogue yet and everybody already hated me. It's so well casted.
That person is psychotic and I need to call the police.
That's John Walker, by the way, who also started as a government patsy version of Captain America in the comics. Later, and currently, he goes by US Agent, and the first time he took that title, he also changed his name to Jack Daniels. Yes, he went from Johnny Walker to Jack Daniels. Comics are awesome, and comics are also very stupid. He probably have powers similar to Cap's, because in the comics, he get it from a man named Power Broker, who's already been name-dropped in the closing credits graphics. I think this guy will have a Homelander-like moment, where a bloody, violent incident will happen at some point, and God, I hope Falcon and Winter Soldier is there to give him a bashing. Alright, that's it for me for now. Let me know if you enjoyed this and want me to do something like this for every episode. Leave a comment below. Like and subscribe and ring that little bell for more Marvel and nerdy content and more of my deeply serious analysis of people in tights punching each other. Peace.